What's up guys, Cloudie here checking in from the America server, and today we will be looking at the balance patch that hit the servers with the first patch of December. Namely, this has affected 5 characters, so a lot fewer than last time, but it seems that Vesp actually took more time and effort to look into these characters and balance them in a meaningful way, not just adjust random numbers as they did in the last one. So let's see who was affected and what they got. So Fray, Philip, Maria, Nerox, and the cars are the 5 characters. Let's see what exactly they have changed on them. So I'm checking the list on the other screen and we can just have a look here. So this is our Fray. They changed her first skill to include the dispel effect. Now baseline, this used to be the third enhancement, and they have added a bit of extra healing to it, which is quite nice. But what I really like about it is this part that the HP of all allies, nearby equal to 40% of heal rate will be also healed. So Frey's biggest weakness, in my opinion, was that she, at least in the early game anyway, that she could only really heal one person at a time, and 2 if you pick the perk for this skill. So if somebody got hit and she switched her healing to that one, then sometimes your tank just died if he or she was taking a lot of damage. So this helps. She becomes now an AoE healer, and yeah, I've heard from Valella, the Fray main, whom most of you probably know, that her HPS is now really through the roof. She's like the best healer in that regard, that she does the most healing. She also has an interesting perk, her S1 Dark. I asked, now this has no icon, so it's kind of hard to see, and I've talked about it with Valella, and he doesn't believe that it affects the heroes hit by the splash healing. Kind of hard to check because it has no icon to see. Her UT1 doesn't work with the splash healing either, so probably neither does this one. So most likely not a great perk to pick unless you always know who will be taking the heal, which is kind of hard to predict at times. But maybe for flow, I've been thinking to run my normal Fray on my alts flow runs because I don't really have enough support characters for it. So there it could be useful, but otherwise maybe not so much. Anyway, AoE heals, so that's kind of nice. Now the second change is of course to her shield, which is really nice now. The extra attack bonus, which was in the perk, has been moved to the baseline skill, and it also got a nice increase in shield strength, so that's quite nice. And of course you get like extra heal rate and CC immunity which goes with it. The cooldown is 12 seconds, which is pretty okay, and there is of course uptime, 12 seconds, and the cooldown is 15. But she has received now a perk which can reduce this, the other one, by 3 seconds, technically making this 100% uptime. But of course there is a bit of a cast time too, so it's not entirely 100%. But if you use like a pocket watch, or like the TM gears with the S2 cooldown reduction, or like the team-wide cooldown reduction, then you could actually make this 100% uptime. Or if you want like a more reactive shield that is stronger, say for flow, then you can take the other perks. So I think this is a pretty good change to her. It's quite nice. And the next one, I don't really understand why they did this. So they have changed this skill that it does more damage now, and it has like a 500 crit chance to it. So I don't know, is it like a DPS Fray now? Whatever. Well, I guess if you wanted her to DPS, you don't need to take as much crit now. So, whatever. But they have also included like a 25% increased all damage for this perk, and that's quite nice. Well, the uptime is not too high. It's like 10-second uptime, 20-second, 22-second cooldown. So this one isn't terribly great. I think it was her UT that can also give like yeah, I think it was in her UT where you got extra magic damage increase, but I wouldn't really take it over her shield UT. So yeah, it got a bit of a buff. It can amp a bit. It's like not a big deal, I think. Let's see. So they have changed the perks, and they have changed the perks on her S4. So this is like the heal over time effect. It now has a reduces all damage taken at the So reduces all damage taken by 15%, and at the beginning of each battle and every 15 seconds increases a magic defense of one ally with the lowest HP. So yeah, the damage taken effect is quite nice, and I think the beginning of the battle wasn't always included until now. I'm not quite sure about that, but anyway, this is quite interesting, and it's pretty good for tanks that take magic damage. So I think this is like an okay perk. I know Wal was saying that he doesn't quite like it, and it has this perk now where it reduces damage from non-hero enemies, which I think is quite nice, especially for flow. I'm considering to take this also on my alt. I think I already did change the perks. The other option is of course changing the number of targets to 2. That's maybe not so much worth. So yeah, I think damage reduction is generally good. Of course, if you have a strong enough shield that it no longer breaks at all, then you do no longer need that. At the stage where my alt is or where my normal Fray is, that's not the case yet, so it wouldn't apply. But okay, so that's all about Fray. She has become a more defensive character with better uptimes on her shield, and it also giving a baseline attack bonus, which is quite nice. It brings her a bit closer to Fallen Fray and generally makes her more useful. Now let's see Mr. Philip, who is the second one in the list. So they have changed his skill. Never mind the rainbow gears, by the way. So they have introduced an extra 50% physical damage reduction on this skill and changed the third effect into the baseline. I think that was the knockdown effect actually. So 50% damage or defense reduction is quite nice, and this has a really good uptime too. It's like 10-second uptime, 12-second cooldown. It will be up a lot. So yeah, that's quite nice. I think they have changed his headbutt skill to have 25% attack reduction and also attack speed reduction, which is, I mean, one of the issues with Philip was that besides the defense reduction that was very strong, he didn't bring much amp or survival to the team, and 25% attack reduction is pretty huge, and 8-second cooldown, 10-second uptime, this will be always up unless you do not have mana to cast it. So all in all, I think this one is a pretty good buff for this skill. And let's see, now Earth Incarnate, this is where I was scratching my head like, Vespa, what were you thinking? So increases all defense and all damage reduction, so I think this is the new part, yeah, that he gets like damage reduction, which is like toughness, I believe. And gains immunity to CC for 15 seconds. So, alright. I don't actually remember if he had this before or not, but like, yeah, 15-second uptime, 22-second cooldown. So once he gets this off, he's like unstoppable. And nowadays, Sonya is the go-to wall DPS, but Philip has been an option too. So, I don't know yet how this will work out. He definitely has become stronger now. Has a lot more physical defense reduction, attack reduction, irremovable, it's CC immunity with damage reduction and all defense and whatever. And I think the healing part was also changed. Maybe, yeah. So this one, I'm a bit on the fence on this because of PvP stuff, but yeah, all in all, his changes as a supporter are quite nice, especially because they also changed his unique weapon to increase attack of all allies by a certain amount based on the star of your unique weapon, and this is activated every time he gets hit. So all in all, he gained attack, more defense reduction, he gained attack reduction, he gained attack for your entire team. Philip definitely got a decent boost, so quite happy with that. Let's see. Maria. Now, Maria is one of the oldest characters in the game, the first kind of antagonist that you meet in the story, and her kit is a bit dated, to be honest. She is very strong as a CC'er, but other than that, she didn't bring that much to the table. Let's see what they have changed about her. So Raven Storm. Now it will also reduce attack speed and of the hit enemies and decrease their magic defense by 30%. So this means that speed reduction is of course good for PvP, less so for PvE, and magic defense reduction is always nice in any content. So 15 seconds uptime, 9-second cooldown. So technically this could be up always. The problem is that like all her debuffs, they are cleansable, so yeah. But yeah, 30% magic defense reduction is quite nice. Now let's see Claw of Restriction. I can't speak. The 4th attribute was moved into the baseline of the skill, so I think that was the increased magic damage part. No, that was the new part, so I guess they just added the continuous damage part then. Whatever, so also receives the 30% increased magic damage part from this skill. Yeah, I mean, that's alright. It means that now she has 30% defense reduction and 30% magic damage increase from her S1 and S2. Let's see, they did not change her S3 at all, and the Black Wind skill got changed a little bit. That now it inflicts this Curse of Leah, and whoever is affected by Curse of Leah will have their crit chance and their attack reduced by 250 and 25%, so 25% for both. She also gained a little bit extra crit chance with this passive, so all in all not too bad. And there is the, which perk was it? It was the S4 Dark that was changed. So now S4 Light Source. So every target that is infected or inflicted with Curse of Leah, her attack rises by 10%, and this can stack up 5 times and is irremovable. So she cannot be dispelled from this once she has affected, once she gained the buff, but the Curse of Leah itself can be dispelled or cleansed, sorry. So, and I assume, well, in PvP nowadays everyone and their mother runs like 3 cleansers, like 2 shields, 1 cleanser. Irremovable debuffs are just very hard to keep up on anyone unless you have like automatic appliance or whatever. And I assume this one also will drop when the curse itself is removed. At least it doesn't say. I haven't really tested it, but I tested that the curse itself can be removed. So I'm not quite sure about this. All in all, she became a better buffer. She can have also like a perk on this one, so she can bring 55% magic increase with her S3, S2, and then magic defense reduction. And I think one of her UTs also could be more magic amplification. She can bring attack down. So she has become a sort of support character that brings a lot more support stuff to magic teams. But magic teams are quite good on that regard. So I'm not quite sure if that's really was needed for her. I remember some people running her in like Xanadis as a support, and they did pretty good with her in the team. But yeah, I'm not quite sold on these changes for her. She got better, but not necessarily in what her main focus was, which was PvP for me. And the part where pretty much everything she does can be cleansed just makes her a lot less useful these days. She works in burst teams, of course. Now let's see, Nerox. So Nerox is one of those tanks that a lot of people will recommend to use early on, like if you have a new account. And my problem with that was always that while he works really well early on, later on he just does not really have a role. You do not bring him to trials, you do not really bring him to Eclipse unless you are out of tanks. You don't really bring him to like Shockmeme or World Bosses or Guild Conquest, and he doesn't really have an endgame role. And this got changed a little bit now because they changed his Nerox's Dark perk, so this one, which I didn't even have before. So at the beginning of each battle, all allies except Nerox's have their damage dealt to non-hero enemies increased by 5% and take 5% reduced damage for 60 seconds. This effect can be stacked up to a maximum 3 times and is irremovable. So basically a flat out PvE buff, 15% non-hero damage and damage reduction after 3 stages. And yeah, it stacks to this one, so it's quite nice in Eclipse or like Escalon maybe, where you are running more stages, or pretty much maybe even like Shockmeme, where it's kind of nice having raw damage reduction and the stacking non-hero damage could be nice. So Nerox is it's not a terribly big buff, but he kind of became like a magic Glambis, also a bit scuff one, I believe. But yeah, he got this one is nice. Also, his unique weapon got changed, that now when he enters this Storm of Nerox's state, he will increase attack, not just defense stats, but also attack for your allies, which is quite nice. I mean, everyone likes more attack, and this just helps him become a more useful buffer. All in all, not a bad change for him. Not a big one, but definitely makes him more relevant and a lot more useful in, say, I said Eclipse. That's where I mostly run him as one of my tanks. So yeah, I like this. It's good. And finally, we have Dakaris. Now, Dakaris, the Lizard Wizard, is the guy that barely anyone uses. Some people do for PvP because he's quite good at that, but he's kind of forgotten. And what they changed here was his S1 skill, that now he gains this Wheel of Resistance, where so when you use this skill, this Wheel of Resistance will activate and be up for 3 seconds, and this can be stacked up to 2 times, and each stack increases damage dealt by this skill by 25%. And now this had me scratch my head a little, because 3-second uptime, 3-second cooldown, there's like no real way that you can stack this. But there is this second part of the skill, that activating Grant Me Strength, which is his skill 2, resets the cooldown and removes cooldown up to 3 skill uses. So as I understand this, if you use his skill 2, then you can spam his S1, and then you do not have a cooldown, so you can stack this Wheel of Resistance too and cast a couple times with the increased damage. Now, the fun part is there is no icon for this Wheel of Resistance. You do not actually see it on yourself. I went and tested it on the dummy, and you cannot see when it's active, so you don't really know if it's up or not. But I guess combined with his S2, you can have like a more bursty or like a deep damage burst with him. But where you actually use this, well, he's still mainly a PvP character. I don't remember anyone ever using him in PvE anywhere. I have never seen anyone do that. Maybe you do. If you do, let me know where he works, because a lot of his fancy stuff is built around having only 3 people in the team. So Guild War, that's where he was released and what he is kind of built for. So in PvE, I don't see how he could work. But I mean, together with this burst function, maybe he could like do some burst damage in certain bosses or something. Yeah, so that's his change. The other option is that the Grant Me Strength cooldown has been reduced from 18 seconds to 15 seconds. That's not too bad. It's not too big. It's just that together with his perks, it can be actually reducing the cooldown on his shield and stuff quite significantly. So technically he could have like 100% uptime on his shield, but he needs to cast it when he's at full health. So that's a bit tricky in certain situations. But yeah, I can't really judge whether this buff changes him much or not. That's what it does. If you guys know, let me know in the comments, really, because I'm curious whether you see any options or use for him now. I'm not quite certain myself. So yeah, this is it. Definitely the 4 other characters, well, maybe Mario less so, but the 2 tanks and Fray have received nice buffs. I think Vespa did a lot better job this time around than they have before, so hopefully if they do other rounds of rebalancing, then we will get to see like decent buffs and not just random numbers thrown at the characters. So okay, this has been it for today, guys. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And I've been Cloudie. See you in the next one. Bye bye.